Subscribe to the channel, and if you've ever opened your home to people who never truly accepted you, let me know your story in the comments. My name is Mike. I'm 45 years old, and for most of my life I believe that a man earned his place by showing up every single day. Not by making speeches. Not by demanding gratitude. Just by carrying the weight no one else wanted. I own a small HVAC company. Nothing glamorous. No fancy offices downtown. Just a handful of trucks, a warehouse that always smelled of sheet metal and insulation, and a crew of men who understood that broken furnaces don't care whether it's Christmas morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. If someone's heat goes out in January, you answer the phone. That's the job. For 20 years I built that business one service call at a time. Long summers crawling through scorching attics. Frozen winters repairing furnaces while snow blew through open garage doors. Every dollar I earned came with scraped knuckles, bad knees, and 12-hour workdays. I wasn't rich, but I was stable. And after my divorce, stability was the only thing I thought I needed. Then I met Emily. She wasn't looking for romance. At least that's what she told me. She was exhausted. A single mother trying to raise a 12-year-old daughter named Haley while working a full-time office job. She'd been divorced for years. Haley's biological father drifted in and out of their lives like smoke. Sometimes he'd call. Sometimes he'd disappear for months. Birthdays came and went. Promises came and went. He was always about to become a better father. He never did. Emily never asked me to replace him. She just appreciated that I showed up. The first few years felt easy. Not perfect. Easy. Haley was polite enough back then. Quiet. Reserved. She never called me dad, and I never expected her to. I figured trust wasn't something you demanded from a child whose life had already been turned upside down. You earned it. One day at a time. When Emily and I married, I walked into that house believing I was starting the second half of my life. Our house. Our family. Our future. Funny how one word can fool a man. Our. The mortgage stayed in Emily's name because she'd owned the house before we married. I didn't care. Paper never meant much to me. Home wasn't whose name appeared on the deed. Home was who paid the bills. Home was who fixed the leaking roof after a thunderstorm. Home was who shoveled snow before sunrise. Home was who made sure the lights never went out. Month after month, year after year, that became me. I paid the mortgage. Every payment. I covered the electric bill. The gas. Water. Internet. Home insurance. Groceries. Property taxes when Emily came up short. New appliances. New furniture. A new air conditioning system when the old one finally died. I never kept score. At least not then. Because that's what husbands do. Or at least that's what I believed husbands did. Emily would thank me sometimes. She'd kiss me on the cheek after I transferred money into the joint account. I don't know what we'd do without you. Simple words. Dangerous words. Because they convinced me I belonged there. Haley grew older. Middle school became high school. High school became college applications. Kids change fast between 12 and 18. Sometimes they become kinder. Sometimes they become strangers. The older Haley became, the less she spoke to me. At first I blamed hormones. Then teenage attitude. Then social media. I invented excuse after excuse because the truth was harder to swallow. She wasn't pulling away because she was growing up. She was pulling away from me. If I reminded her to clean her room. You're not my dad. If I told her to be home before midnight. My real dad doesn't make stupid rules. If I asked where she was going, Emily would answer before Haley even bothered. Almost like my question didn't deserve a response. Small moments. Tiny cuts. None of them deep enough to bleed. But thousands of tiny cuts can empty a man just as surely as one deep wound. I kept paying. College acceptance letters arrived. Haley got into a state university. She cried. Emily cried. I smiled. The tuition wasn't fully covered. Housing wasn't covered. Books certainly weren't. Without saying much, I wrote the checks. Semester after semester. Thousands of dollars. Then more. Laptop. Parking permit. Meal plan. Apartment deposit. Furniture for her first off-campus place. I told myself this was an investment. Not in her education. In our family. Because families help each other. Right. Sometimes I'd catch myself looking around the living room after everyone had gone to bed. The couch I'd bought. The television I'd mounted. The flooring I'd paid to replace. The kitchen renovation. The dining table. Everywhere I looked, I saw pieces of my life. Pieces I'd built. Pieces I'd paid for. I would lean back in my chair and think, this is home. Finally. After all these years. I have a home. I had no idea that I was the only person in that house who believed it. The first real crack came during Haley's second year of college. She had started bringing a boyfriend home on weekends. His name was Tyler. He was 22, unemployed more often than not, and carried himself with the lazy confidence of a man who had never paid for the rooms he occupied. The first time we met, he shook my hand without looking at me. After that, he stopped pretending. He ate my food, used my internet, left beer bottles on the back porch, and slept in Haley's room as if my house were a motel with no checkout time. When I objected, Emily told me Haley was an adult. That word again. Adult. Adult enough to ignore my rules. Not adult enough to pay her own tuition. One Sunday morning, I found Tyler stretched across my couch with his shoes on the cushions. Haley was beside him, laughing at something on her phone. An empty pizza box sat on the coffee table, surrounded by cans and greasy plates. I stood in the doorway for a moment. Either of them looked up. Clean this up, I said. Haley kept scrolling. Tyler smiled. Not warmly. He smiled the way men smile when they want you to know they are not afraid of you. I'm talking to both of you. Haley sighed and dropped her phone into her lap. Why are you always trying to control everything? I'm asking you to clean up the mess you made. It's Mom's house. There it was. 3 words. Quiet. Effortless. Cruel. I looked toward the kitchen. Emily was standing near the sink, pretending to rinse a cup that was already clean. I waited for her to say something. She didn't. I turned back to Haley. I pay for this house. She laughed. Actually laughed. So? That sound stayed with me longer than the words. So? As though 6 years of mortgage payments meant nothing. As though the roof above her head had appeared by magic. As though the food in her stomach, the car in the driveway, the insurance card in her wallet, and the education I was financing had fallen from the sky. Tyler leaned back and folded his arms. You heard her, he said. I looked at him. For a few seconds, the room became very still. You don't speak to me that way in my home. He glanced at Haley, and she smiled at him. That was the moment I understood they had discussed me when I wasn't around. They had turned my patience into a joke. My restraint had become weakness in their eyes. Tyler stood. He was younger than me. Taller by an inch. Thick through the shoulders. He moved close enough that I could smell stale beer on his breath. You're home? He asked. Behind him, Haley began to laugh again. I should have thrown him out that morning. I should have pointed toward the door and told Haley she could follow him if she believed his presence mattered more than mine. But I didn't. I looked at Emily. She finally spoke. Mike, please. Don't make this worse. Not Tyler. Not Haley. Me. I was the problem because I had noticed the disrespect. I was dangerous because I refused to smile while being humiliated. I walked away. That became the pattern. Haley ignored me. Tyler challenged me. Emily managed me. Whenever I tried to establish a boundary, my wife would pull me aside and ask me to be patient. She said Haley was under pressure at school. She said Tyler had a difficult childhood, She said I needed to stop taking everything personally. But disrespect is always personal when it happens under your roof. The final argument began over money. Haley had used the credit card I gave her for textbooks and emergencies to pay for a weekend trip with Tyler. Hotel, restaurants, concert tickets. Almost $2,000. I found the charges while sitting in my office after work. My hands were still stained from a compressor replacement. I had spent 10 hours on a rooftop in July heat, while Haley spent my money drinking in an air-conditioned hotel. I called her downstairs. She arrived with Tyler behind her. I placed the statement on the table. "What is this?" She barely glanced at it. "A trip. That card was for school. I'll pay it back." "With what?" Her face tightened. Tyler stepped closer. "She said she'll pay it. I wasn't speaking to you." He laughed under his breath. Haley snatched the statement from the table, crumpled it, and threw it down. "You always do this. You act like money means you own everyone. I act like the man paying the bills deserves an explanation." "You're not my father." "I never said I was." "Then stop pretending you have authority over me." I could feel 6 years collapsing inside my chest. Every payment. Every repair. Every sacrifice. Reduced to an inconvenience. I pointed toward Tyler. "He leaves tonight." Haley's expression changed. The anger disappeared. Something colder replaced it. She stepped toward me until there were only a few feet between us. "If you don't get out of this house," she said, "my boyfriend will make sure you leave." No one moved. Tyler stared at me with a hard little smile. I turned to Emily. She had heard every word. My wife looked frightened, but not for me. She moved toward Haley and lowered her voice. "Everyone needs to calm down." I kept watching her. "Did you hear what she said?" Emily avoided my eyes. "Mike, don't make the situation worse." That was her answer. Not outrage. Not loyalty. Not even concern. A warning. To me. Something inside me went silent. I didn't threaten Tyler. I didn't shout at Haley. I didn't ask Emily to choose. She already had. I picked up the crumpled statement, smoothed it with both hands, and carried it into my office. Then I closed the door. For the rest of the evening, they whispered in the kitchen. Once I heard Haley laugh. Later, Tyler ordered food using the delivery account connected to my card. I sat alone in the dark. I thought about the mortgage, the utilities, the insurance, the tuition, the groceries. Every invisible burden I had carried while they debated whether I had the right to stand upright beneath it. By midnight, I had made my decision. I would not argue for a place in that family. I would show them exactly what my place had been. The next morning, before anyone woke, I put on my cleanest suit and drove to an attorney's office. I said very little. I simply placed 6 years of bank statements on his desk and told him the truth. "I have been threatened in the home I pay for." He looked through the records. Then he looked at me. "What do you want to do?" I stared through the window at the traffic below. For the first time in years, the answer felt simple. "I want to stop carrying people who want me gone." The attorney listened without interrupting. He didn't ask whether Haley had really meant the threat. He didn't tell me that families argue. He didn't suggest counseling. He simply reviewed 6 years of bank records, monthly statements, canceled checks, tuition receipts, utility payments, insurance premiums, grocery expenses, and every transfer I had quietly made into our household. Finally, he closed the folder. "You've been funding nearly everything." "Yes." "And the house?" "It's in Emily's name." He nodded slowly. "Then the first step is simple. Protect yourself." There was something strangely comforting about those words. Protect yourself. For years I had protected everyone else. Emily from financial stress. Haley from student loans. The house from falling apart. The refrigerator from being empty. The lights from being disconnected. The mortgage from being late. Everyone except me. The attorney outlined everything carefully. Separate my personal accounts. Open new banking arrangements. Cancel every automatic payment connected to the household. Document the threat. Avoid arguments. Communicate only in writing whenever possible. His advice wasn't emotional. It was practical. That made it easier to follow. When I left his office, I didn't feel angry. I felt awake. The illusion had finally ended. On the drive home, I stopped at my bank. Within an hour, every recurring payment attached to my accounts had been reviewed. Electricity. Cancelled. Natural gas. Cancelled. Internet. Cancelled. Streaming services. Cancelled. Home insurance that I had been paying. Cancelled. Automatic grocery deliveries. Cancelled. Haley's monthly college transfer. Cancelled. The credit card I had allowed her to use for school expenses. Frozen. Every click of the mouse felt strangely quiet. No revenge. No celebration. Just the slow closing of doors that should never have been left open. When I arrived home, nobody noticed anything. Haley was asleep. Tyler's truck was gone. Emily was making coffee. She smiled when I walked into the kitchen. "Everything okay?" I looked at the woman I had loved for 6 years. "I met with an attorney this morning." Her smile disappeared. "What?" "I've separated my finances." She stared at me. "I don't understand." "I won't continue paying for a house where I'm threatened with violence." For several seconds she simply blinked. Then came the excuses. "Mike, Haley didn't mean that." I asked whether she meant it. "She's young. She's 20. She was emotional. So was I." Emily crossed her arms. "You're overreacting." "No." I spoke so calmly that even I surprised myself. I finally reacted. Her face hardened. "You can't punish all of us because of one argument." It wasn't one argument. It was 6 years. Silence settled between us. I continued before she could interrupt. "I've paid the mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, repairs, furniture, and Haley's college expenses. I accepted all of that because I believed this was my home." "It is your home." I shook my head. "No." The word landed like stone. "A home is where you're safe. Yesterday your daughter threatened to have her boyfriend remove me from this house." Emily rubbed her forehead. "Tyler would never actually hurt you. That isn't the point." "What is the point?" "The point is that nobody defended me." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "I was trying to calm everyone down. You were trying to calm me down." Her eyes drifted toward the floor. That tiny movement told me everything. She knew. She knew exactly what had happened. She simply couldn't admit it aloud. I reached into my briefcase and placed a single sheet of paper on the kitchen table. It listed every payment I had canceled that morning. She read silently. Her breathing became shallow. "Mike, I'll continue paying my own expenses." She looked up. "But the mortgage?" "No." "The electric bill?" "No." "The internet?" "No." "The groceries?" "No." "You can't just stop." I already did. Tears formed in her eyes. "How are we supposed to manage?" I held her gaze. It was the first honest question anyone in that house had asked me in years. "I don't know." She stared at me as though I had become someone else. Maybe I had. For 6 years I had believed love meant endless sacrifice. Now I understood something different. Sacrifice without respect becomes permission. Permission to insult. Permission to threaten. Permission to use. I was finished granting it. That evening Haley came downstairs looking for something to eat. She opened the refrigerator. Closed it. Opened the pantry. Almost empty. She frowned. "Mom, are we ordering groceries tonight?" Emily looked toward me. I said nothing. She answered quietly. "No." "Why not?" Emily swallowed. "Mike isn't paying anymore." Haley laughed. She actually laughed. Very funny. Emily didn't smile. The laughter disappeared from Haley's face. She looked from her mother to me. You seriously stopped? Yes. You can't do that. I can. You've always paid. Not anymore. She folded her arms. This is childish. No. It is. I stood. It's called consequences. She rolled her eyes. For what? Saying something during an argument? For showing me exactly what I mean to this family. She scoffed. You'll get over it. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I answered with complete certainty. No. The room fell silent. For the first time since I had married Emily, either of them had another argument ready. Only the sound of an almost empty refrigerator humming in the kitchen filled the house. The bills had stopped. Now the counting would begin. The first notice arrived 3 days later. Emily found it in her email while sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee she had reheated twice. The electric company warned that the automatic payment had been removed and the balance was due by the end of the week. She read it once. Then again. As if the words might change. Mike. I was tying my work boots near the front door. What? The electric bill is due. I know. She waited. I kept tying my boots. Are you going to pay it? No. Her chair scraped against the floor. You were serious? I looked up. I gave you a list? I thought you were trying to prove a point. I proved it. But we need electricity. Then pay the bill. Her face tightened. She opened her mouth, but I was already walking out. At work, I spent the morning replacing a failed blower motor in an elderly couple's house. The husband hovered behind me, apologizing because the basement was cluttered. His wife brought me water and thanked me 4 times before I finished. They didn't owe me gratitude. They paid for a service. Still, they treated me with more respect in 2 hours than I had received in my own home for years. That realization hurt more than Haley's threat. By the time I returned that evening, the atmosphere inside the house had changed. The refrigerator held half a carton of eggs, mustard, 2 bottles of water, and leftovers that smelled sour. The pantry contained rice, canned beans, and a box of cereal Haley had complained about buying months earlier. She was standing in front of the open refrigerator when I entered. There's nothing to eat. I set my keys on the counter. There is food. Not real food. Then buy some. She turned around. With what money? Your money. I don't have any. Then asked Tyler. Her expression sharpened. Why are you obsessed with him? I'm not. You hate him. I don't care enough about him to hate him. She slammed the refrigerator door. He said he'd protect me. From what? From you acting like you control this house. I stared at her. There it was again. That belief. I was dangerous when I asked for respect. Tyler was protective when he threatened violence. Tell him the grocery bill needs protection. She rolled her eyes and walked away. That night, she called him. I heard pieces of the conversation through the wall. She spoke softly at first, then with irritation. No, I'm not asking for that much. A pause. Because we need groceries. Another pause. Tyler, you eat here too. Silence. Then her bedroom door slammed. He didn't come over that night. He didn't come the next day either. By the end of the week, the internet service was suspended. Haley discovered it when she tried to stream a movie. She marched downstairs holding her phone like evidence in a trial. The Wi-Fi is off. Yes. I have assignments. Use the campus library. I shouldn't have to drive there. Then pay the bill. She turned to Emily. Mom, do something. Emily sat on the couch surrounded by envelopes. Her face looked older than it had a week earlier. I don't have enough. Haley stared at her. What do you mean? I mean I don't have enough money. For internet? For everything. That was the first time Haley looked frightened. Not ashamed. Not sorry. Frightened. She had never considered where the money came from. Bills had always been paid before she saw them. Food had appeared before the shelves were empty. Tuition had been handled before the deadlines. My work had been invisible because its results were constant. Now my absence was becoming visible everywhere. Emily had tried to cover the mortgage from her salary. After taxes, the payment consumed most of her monthly income. The electric bill, water, insurance, gasoline, and groceries waited behind it like wolves. She began moving money between accounts. Then she used a credit card. Then another. I watched quietly. I didn't enjoy it. That surprised me. For years, I had imagined what it might feel like if they finally understood my value. I thought there would be satisfaction. There wasn't. There was only exhaustion. A few days later, Haley received an email from the university. Her next tuition installment had failed. She read it at the dining table. I watched the color drain from her face. "This says my payment was declined?" I said nothing. She refreshed the screen. Then she checked her banking application. Then the frozen credit card. "Mike." I looked at her. "You canceled my tuition?" "Yes." Her voice rose. "You can't do that in the middle of the year." "I already did. I could lose my classes. Then speak with financial aid. They'll tell me to take out loans." "Probably. I don't want loans." "Neither did I." She pushed back from the table. "You said you wanted me to graduate." "I did." "Then why are you destroying everything?" The question almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny. Because she truly believed her future was something I was destroying by refusing to finance it. "You threatened me in the home I paid for." I was angry. "You brought a man into this house who supported that threat. He wasn't going to do anything. You didn't know that." She looked toward Emily. Her mother remained silent. Haley's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed hard. "So you're ruining my life over words?" "No." I leaned forward. "I'm refusing to keep ruining mine." She stood so quickly that the chair struck the wall. "You're unbelievable." She grabbed her phone and called Tyler. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Nothing. The third call connected. "Where have you been?" she demanded. I could hear only her side. "No, I need you to come over." Pause. "Because everything is falling apart." Pause. "My tuition isn't paid." Longer pause. "Can you help me?" Her face changed. The anger weakened. "What do you mean, no?" She listened. Then whispered. "You said you'd always take care of me." Whatever he answered made her lower the phone. The call ended. She stared at the screen. Emily rose from the couch. "What did he say?" Haley swallowed. "He said this is family business." I almost admired the cowardice of it. When there had been food in the refrigerator, Tyler had acted like a member of the household. When the internet worked, he had slept under my roof. When my credit card paid for dinners, trips, and deliveries, he had stood in my living room and challenged me. Now the bills were real. Suddenly he was an outsider. 2 days later, he ended the relationship by text. Haley locked herself in her room. I heard her crying through the door. Emily stood in the hallway for almost an hour, begging her to come out. Eventually the door opened, and Haley fell into her mother's arms. I watched from the bottom of the stairs. Part of me remembered the 12-year-old girl I had first met. Quiet. Careful. Abandoned by one father and suspicious of the man who came after him. I had spent 6 years trying to prove I wouldn't disappear. In return, she had tried to drive me out. The following morning, she found me in the garage. I was packing tools into my truck when she stepped into the cold air wearing socks and an oversized sweatshirt. Her face was swollen. Her eyes were red. "Mike." I kept working. She walked closer. "I didn't know." I closed the toolbox. "Didn't know what?" "How much you paid for." I looked at her. She began listing things as though reciting evidence against herself. "The mortgage. The utilities. My insurance." School. Food. Everything. Almost everything. Her lower lip trembled. Mom showed me the accounts. I waited. Then her knees buckled. She dropped onto the concrete floor and covered her face with both hands. I'm sorry. The words came apart inside her sobs. I'm sorry. Please don't leave us. I stood over her in silence. For years I had imagined hearing that apology. But now it sounded different. It had arrived only after the lights, food, tuition, and boyfriend were gone. I crouched until we were level. Haley, respect can't be rebuilt with apologies after years of humiliation. She reached for my sleeve. I'll change. Maybe you will. Please. I gently removed her hand. But I won't finance the lesson. Her crying grew louder. I stood, picked up my toolbox, and walked toward the truck. Behind me, she said the one thing I had once longed to hear. You are my family. I stopped. For 1 second. Then I opened the truck door. Families shouldn't need an empty refrigerator to remember that. And I drove away.